Hello, this is Devin Plummer back with the Silver Screen Shenanigans podcast. I will be writing solo on this one today and maybe for the foreseeable future. Today's show will be revolving around a film that I had heard about quite a bit and had never gotten the chance to get around watching it until last night. And that film is known as Southpaw. This is a rated R film from 2015. It's a drama, maybe slash thriller, I suppose, with really a star-studded cast, I feel like. Jake Gyllenhaal, Rachel McAdams, Forrest Whitaker, 50 Cent, which was kind of fun. I personally haven't seen him in many movies. So this film is, when I first saw it, honestly, I was thinking, oh, it's a boxing sort of redemption movie. I was like, hasn't that been done already? Been done to death with like Rocky and it's, spin-offs and remakes, what have you. And it's movies that sort of try to follow in Rocky's footsteps. There are almost too many to count. So I was going into this movie perhaps a little bored, a little like thinking, what's this movie going to say that I haven't already seen, But I tell you, right off the bat, I was pleasantly surprised by not only this movie's portrayal of struggle, sadness, and grief, but just the actor's performance. Really, everyone that was on screen, I didn't notice really many flaws with their performance. The lighting was definitely something that played a key role, I feel like, in the storytelling. And finally, just the drama and the emotion behind this was very much impactful. I felt like, I ain't even gonna lie, some parts of it had me tearing up. And if you watch this movie and you don't, I got news for you. You have some problems of your own. Anyways, so this film, excuse me, starts with Billy Hope, played by Jake Gyllenhaal. He is a undefeated professional boxer, basically, on the top of the world. He is, I believe, 43-0. Or I could be wrong on that, but he's undefeated. Just kind of a BA boxer, if you get what I mean. So he's living in New York, living the high life with his wife, Maureen, played by Rachel McAdams, and their daughter, Layla, who is, her name is pronounced, I'll probably butcher this, but Ona Lawrence. During the match, which he defends his world heavyweight title, Billy sustains a pretty solid shot, repeated shots to his eye, and it, starts to bleed fairly heavily. And this really does scare his wife, Maureen, who's, sitting at ringside. And she is, in my opinion, rightfully so, trying to convince Billy that it is sort of time to retire. And, of course, he doesn't want to hear it because he's on the top of the world. He's winning. Their life is because he's winning. But she doesn't like the way he is fighting to get the dream home. And she makes a fairly solid point when she says, what good is all this mansion that we have if you're not around to be here in it with us? Which I think is a really solid point. If you sort of, work really hard in life and you just keep pushing, and you forget to take care of yourself, not only physically, but of course mentally, you know, what good is that career? What good is that for your livelihood? Anyways, I'll hop off my soapbox. So as Billy sustains this eye injury, his wife wants him to retire, and he later that I think it's a couple nights after he wins the fight, you see the relationship that he has with his daughter and his wife, and he's very caring, even though he's not the most well spoken or most intelligent guy, which most likely, in my opinion, anyways, an influence probably from Rocky. He really does have a kind soul, and he cares about his daughter and his wife more than any amount of money. But a couple days later, they go to a charity event for the, I think it's the orphanage that both Billy and Maureen grew up in, if I'm not mistaken. And they go there and they have a speech, and it's all very nice. But he is interrupted, I guess, by another fighter. His name is Miguel Escobar, and this leads to a brawl because he says some defamatory things about Maureen. And as a guy, I understand that if somebody's says something pretty nasty about your family, your logic sort of kind of goes out the window, and it's pure emotion at that point. Unfortunately, this leads to a gun being fired by one of Miguel's men, and this bullet ends up hitting Maureen, and it was honestly a very emotional scene. Me personally, I see Rachel McAdams in this role, and I'm like, no way she dies. This was a complete shock to me. And Jake Gyllenhaal and the daughter Una, they played these roles perfectly. It's just your life just sort of falling apart as he grieves with Maureen in his arms as she tragically passes away. And I believe the shooter, Hector, he flees the scene. And this, unfortunately, leads Billy down a downward spiral. And as I spoke earlier, this movie, I think, does a fantastic job showing how grief and despair can lead people just down a downward spiral of emotions that not only negatively impact themselves, but those around them. And we see this in ways such as Billy abusing alcohol. He is obsessively looking for his wife's killer, and he, has a gun with him. So it's pretty clear of what he's going to do when he finds him. Eventually, I think, he gets a tip about his whereabouts, and only stumbles upon his drug addicted wife, and he sees the condition that this family is in, and he can't go through with it. He leaves. So, and in another fight, after attacking a referee, Billy is suspended and is suspended from the boxing league, and now, of course, is indebted because he has this mansion that costs so much. Taxes are coming up, and he has to pay legal fees to the referee, and such and such. He this leads to the house of course being repossessed, and he continues to spiral out of control when he has moments of most likely suicidal thoughts, because he, in his intoxicated state, he drives the car um, into a tree next to his house, and he stumbles into his house, bloody and broken. And there are moments in this that are just so tragic because his daughter wakes up. She comes down, Lila comes down the stairs and just screams out for somebody to come help her dad. And it was brutal. Unfortunately, Lila is put in Child Protective Services, and because of obviously Billy's intoxicated state, he had a firearm on him, and so they were separated. And this, once again, these two actors, Jake Gyllenhaal and Una Lawrence, their performances in these courtroom scenes are, oh man, it's so real to everybody's situations, and I completely believe these performances, and that's how good it was, because it was just a rough scene to get through. This leads Billy to sort of readjust his life with the funds he has left. He gets in a small apartment, and he goes to a gym run by Titus Tick Wills, who's portrayed by Forrest Whitaker, another fantastic actor. And the reason he claims to go to this gym is because Tick trained a fighter that supposedly, according to Billy, was the only person that actually beat him, but Billy's manager would pay off the referee in that fight. But yeah, according to Billy, that was the only fight that he lost, and he wants to know, he wants to be trained by the guy, that trained the fighter that beat him. So he also needs to get a job to prove that he's turning his life around to Child Protective Services. So he gets a job as cleaning, and eventually he convinces Tick to be his trainer. And this is where Billy also has a sort of comedic relationship, I feel, with an actor named Skylan Brooks, who portrays a little kid named Hoppy. There's a sort of funny joke where Hoppy explains why they call him that. And he's like, my mom just likes rabbits, man. And unfortunately, this boxing ring is sort of for kids who have nowhere to go. They have struggling home lives. So Tick sort of takes them in, trains them, and helps them with the real world, which I think is very cool. So they Billy's sort of forming these relationships. He's getting better with his anger issues and his drinking and stuff like that. So this leads to another of many of the hard scenes to get through. But Billy wants to, obviously visit his daughter every chance he can through the Child Protective Services. And she is a kid, going through the loss of her mother, and she unfortunately turns this grief and hatred towards Billy, saying things that in the moment she, feels outraged, but, probably one of those deals that she doesn't mean, saying like, I hate you for not getting me out of here and stuff along that effect, which I can only imagine how that affects a father. So after a couple times of this meeting with his daughter, the relationship is sort of strained. After one training bout that Billy has, um, his old Billy's old trainer, who sort of dumped him like trash after um, he was out of work and got suspended. Just like his Billy's late wife Maureen totally predicted. She said something along the lines of, "After they're done with you, they'll just spit you out like a wad of gum." And now, of course, that Billy's getting better, his old trainer or his old manager wants to come back, who was played by 50 Cent. His name is Jordan Maines, who is, of course, managing now Miguel, which is just salt in the wound. Like, that's just, ooh, yikes. Not cool, dude. So he arranges a fight that could possibly get Billy back into the spotlight for the championship. Tick is reluctant to train Billy, fearful he might be blinded by his own vendetta against Miguel. So, he wants him to do it for the right reasons, to get his daughter back and his family back and, that good stuff. But Tick one night is in the gym just hammering on one of the body bags, or not body bags, the weight bags, whatever. And Billy sort of asked him what's wrong that night, and just out of nowhere, I guess we have heard problems of, of course, that Hoppy's home had some struggles with his dad being an abusive father. And we find out that in a fight, Hoppy tried to defend his mother, and his dad just shot him, and he was dead. And this just, completely breaks Tick down. And him and Billy have a really solid heart-to-heart. And Tick, in a way, sees Layla, Billy's daughter, and does not want her to grow up in that, and doesn't want to let Billy's life be destroyed. So he agrees to train Billy. And they get serious about the training, and then with the training comes continued visits, Billy visiting Layla. And she's reluctant to forgive her father, which, of course, he spiraled downward and did some dumb things. But they eventually kind of come to an understanding when it's realized that Billy will have a boxing match and he's back into fighting. And they sort of come to a understanding of the struggle that they've both been through. And I forgot. Sorry, I blanked on her name. Layla wants to come to one of his fights, and we're reminded that Maureen did not want Layla to go to any of Billy's fights, for obvious reasons. But they kind of come to an agreement that Layla would be at the arena, but she would be sort of in the locker room watching it on a TV. As the match begins, Miguel has the upper hand because he's just a fast, quick-witted boxer. But Billy, with Tick's advice, has the chance to turn the tables by slowing down his emotions, not getting angry, actually using defense that he was taught by Tick, because originally Billy had no defense. And he uses the defensive techniques, countering more aggressively. And with a surprising move, out of nowhere, delivers a left-handed uppercut to Miguel and knocks him down. But unfortunately, Miguel gets up at the very last second. And So it kind of comes down to a split decision, and they are sort of, it's a very tense moment because we don't know who wins. The first judge, I believe, awards the victory to Miguel, and the second judge awards it to Billy. It comes down to the third judge, and I think it's like a matter of 2 punches or something like that. I'm not sure, but it's very, very close, very tight. And it's decided that Billy is the new champion. And, this leads to a very emotional moment that he's able to climb the mountaintop to get back to where he was. Very inspiring for sure. It's a very solid message of no matter how much you stumble and lose your way, that a person can always get back up and continue to fight the good fight. After the fight, they go to the locker room, and Billy embraces his daughter, and they are saying to each other how, your mother would be so proud of you, and they're crying, and, I love yous are shared, and it's a very touching moment. What can I say? I'm human. So things are fairly good. And I believe Layla says that she wants to go visit her mother's grave. So they go there and they see her. They give her a flower, and that's sort of how the movie wraps up. I mean, like I said in the beginning, I didn't have very high expectations of what this movie is going to do. But it sure impressed the heck out of me. The fact that Jake Gyllenhaal doesn't have an Oscar yet is kind of proof that organization's kind of like all rubbish. Like it's kind of silly, really silly to me. But yeah, fantastic performances. Even with the little time that Rachel McAdams had, she conveyed a caring and heartfelt mother. Forrest Whitaker is kind of like the old dog that can still give some new tricks. He's very much like the Mickey from the Rocky series, the old, I guess like the old mean, like gruff trainer who's far past his prime years. Jake Gyllenhaal does a fantastic performance of the guy who might always not do the right thing, but in the end, he does care about the people that he truly needs and truly has. And in the end, that's all we can really do, man. And Una Lawrence, who played Layla Hope, my goodness, she was a fantastic actor for, a kid. Usually kids don't do that great a job, in my opinion, which you can't really blame them. They're kids. But she did a fantastic job. And I was kind of hoping for 50 Cent, his character, to get like punched at some point in the movie because, man, he was just arrogant and like a sleazeball snake. But he didn't. Like I say, performances were excellent, lighting excellent, the visual storytelling of anger, grief, and sadness, all fantastic. There's not much more I can say about a fantastic movie like this. And thank you for listening. And I will see you next time.